My grandma was the only one who loved me. Then she passed away, and I became invisible in my own family. The girl no one noticed. Some people grow up with birthday parties, hugs, and loud family dinners. Others grow up learning how to disappear. This is the story of Elena Brooks, a quiet girl who learned very young that love can be selective, and that sometimes the only person who truly sees you is the one the world takes first. For Elena, that person was her grandmother, Margaret Brooks, a gentle woman with silver hair, warm tea, and stories that wrapped broken hearts back together. When Margaret was there, Elena existed. When she was gone, Elena became invisible. But this isn't only a story about loss. It's a story about finding yourself after you were forgotten, and learning that sometimes, the family you build becomes stronger than the one you were born into. Grandma's house was my only safe place. Elena never felt like she belonged in her parents' house. Her older siblings were praised for every tiny success. She was the quiet one, the background noise. At dinner, her stories were interrupted. At birthdays, her gifts were practical while everyone else received surprises. But every Friday, she took the bus across town to Grandma Margaret's small yellow house. There, everything changed. Margaret listened to every word Elena spoke. They baked cinnamon cookies, played old piano tunes, and read novels aloud when rain painted the windows. Margaret called her "my little star," the only name that made Elena feel real. Sometimes Elena would cry in her lap without explaining anything. Margaret never demanded reasons. "You don't have to earn love," she would whisper. "You already deserve it." Elena didn't know it yet, but those words would one day save her life. The day the house went silent. The call came on a Tuesday morning, while Elena was tying her shoes. Her mother's face drained of color. Grandma Margaret had passed quietly in her sleep. The world didn't end loudly. It ended quietly, like someone turning off a light in a room Elena was still standing in. At the service, Elena sat in the back row while relatives whispered about inheritance, schedules, and who would take the piano. Nobody asked how she was doing. Afterward, the yellow house was sold. The piano disappeared. The cinnamon scent faded from her clothes. And with Margaret gone, Elena's place in the family vanished too. No one noticed when she stopped talking. No one asked when her grades slipped. No one saw her cry in the shower, so nobody would hear. It was as if her existence had been filed away with old furniture, living in a house where you don't exist. Months passed. At home, Elena became a shadow. Her siblings laughed in the living room while she ate dinner alone in her bedroom. When she mentioned college dreams, her father changed the subject. Her mother forgot to pick her up from practice twice in 1 week. The worst part wasn't the neglect. It was realizing nobody noticed the neglect. So Elena stopped trying. She stayed in the school library, wrote poems in secret notebooks, and took long walks past the old neighborhood where her grandmother once lived. Every night she whispered into the darkness, "I'm still here." But no one answered. Until one afternoon, her English teacher found her crying behind the bleachers and did the one thing no one in her family ever did. She sat down. When a stranger finally sees you, Mrs. Carter didn't lecture. She listened. Elena spoke for nearly an hour about Margaret, about feeling invisible, about how silence had become safer than disappointment. Mrs. Carter simply said, "Your voice matters. You just haven't been in a room that deserves it." She helped Elena join the school writing club. For the first time, people applauded her words. Her poems about loneliness were shared in assemblies. Students she'd never met asked for advice. Something woke up inside her. She applied for scholarships in secret. She saved money. She made a plan. It didn't start with revenge. It started with hope. The life Grandma always wanted for me. 2 years later, Elena packed her bags. No one in her family argued. No one tried to stop her. But she wasn't hurt anymore. She stood outside the old yellow house, now someone else's home, and whispered, "I made it, Grandma." College was hard, but it was hers. She wrote stories about quiet children who found loud dreams. Her work was published. She made friends who chose her every day. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was becoming exactly who Margaret always believed she was. The girl who found herself. Elena didn't lose her family. She found herself. And in doing so, she built a new family, one made from friendship, kindness, and the bravery to believe you matter even when no one else says it out loud. Moral of the story: you are not defined by who ignores you, but by who you choose to become when no one is watching. Sometimes, the people who love us most don't stay long. But if they teach us how to love ourselves, they never really leave. Summary: Elena Brooks grows up feeling unseen in her own family, where her achievements are ignored and her voice is often dismissed. The only person who truly values her is her grandmother, Margaret, who provides warmth, encouragement, and unconditional care. When Margaret passes away, Elena loses not only her biggest source of love, but also her sense of belonging. Her family becomes distant, and she slowly fades into silence. Everything changes when a caring teacher notices her pain and encourages her to share her thoughts through writing. Elena discovers her strength in expressing herself and begins to rebuild her confidence. With determination and hope, she plans her future independently and eventually leaves for college. By embracing her talent and surrounding herself with people who genuinely appreciate her, Elena finds her identity and happiness. The story ends on a hopeful note, showing that even after being forgotten, it is possible to rediscover your worth and create a life filled with meaning and joy.